souls, and I wanted people to get it that when a soul is sitting in darkness, they still have free choice. And so, as Ron was explaining earlier, some of those souls may be smart enough to pull back and continue their negative ways and be attracted to other souls, or souls who are in the body who are thinking negatively, and that's what will inevitably happen. And it's a law of the universe. If you think that way, you will attract that negativity to you. But the point that I wanted to make clear to people is that one still has a choice while sitting in that darkness, and the purpose of it is so that the soul will sit and think about what they've done and maybe become aware of why they're there. And they can always choose at any time to begin to work on a progressive path and to help others and make progress. And if a soul's sitting in darkness and chooses to start working and ask for help from the universe, a teacher, when a teacher is available, will come and work one-on-one with that soul to get them on the right spiritual path, and then they can make progress and pass through the light and begin to move through the gray area to the astral level. And it takes a lot of time, but there's no time there. But the point I wanted to make is that it's not like how religions say where there's a hell and you burn forever. It never occurs that way. There's karma, and you're accountable for everything you do. And the only way to make up for it is to actually work with another soul that has had that done to them. Say you rape somebody, you have to work with another soul that has been raped, or that soul that you did rape, and try to get that forgiveness, or try to help them and make progress in some way. In that specific area, though. It's not vague, it's very specific. And so I just wanted to cover that, but Ron wasn't done telling us about murderers and the death penalty. Ron, please continue.
Yeah, absolutely. You have so much there, right on track with exactly what you said. The soul does have, after sitting maybe for a long time, they have no idea how much time they've been sitting, they have the opportunity to just simply say, what is this? All I see is all these things that I've done, and I just have them going through my mind and so forth, and where am I, and what am I doing here, and what is all this? And finally they say, I want out of here, I want some help. Is there someone that can help me? And that's what they have to reach. They have to get to that point and ask. The minute they ask, that thought is picked up immediately in the universe, and there are tons and tons of souls, teachers in the universe, and souls that even connected to that soul, that will come and help. And they will ask permission to do so, and the teachers will give them permission to go down and try to talk to that soul in darkness. Just give you a little example. My father was very stubborn, and he was in a home in his last years, and he was in a wheelchair. And he was considered a cantankerous man because he upset all the nurses all the time in the nursing home, and they just felt that, boy, when are we ever going to get rid of this guy? It was in their thoughts. Isn't that amazing? So when he did pass, they had a party. They were so happy that he passed. They don't have to put up with him any longer. Okay? Now, at this time, I had this opening, this wonderful connection, speaking to the high teachers of the universe, through my sister's writing, to ask the question, to say, now, my dad just passed. What has happened to him? Where is he? Well, we're sorry, Ron, but he's sitting in darkness in his wheelchair. Everyone has come to him and said, come with us, come with us. And his own mother even coming and saying, come on with us. We'll show you what to do and what you have to do and the work you have to do. And he's saying, get away from me, you're dead. You're dead, get away from me. Sending his own mother away from him in tears, trying to get through to her son and could not. Now, how sad is that? But that is the simple case. His brother stayed with him, my uncle. And they told me, you can listen to this because maybe you have had experiences with people that have not been very progressive souls while they're here on earth and have passed on, and they could be in darkness. And this is how you can help them. They said, Ron, he needs your prayers. You send your healing and your prayers to him, and put a glass of water out by his picture. Take a picture when he was young and when he was at his wedding and he looked very handsome. And set that picture up, put the glass of water in front of the picture. You're going to have to change it every day. Give him fresh water every day. And you can also, when you can afford it, get a pink carnation and put it beside the water. A pink carnation, I said. Yes, your dad loves pink carnations. He did? I didn't know he loved anything, is what my response was. And I find out that, okay, so he loves something, so let's put that there. And I would send my present, say, Dad, I forgive you for everything. I want you to make progress. I'm sending you my healing energies to help you to get up out of that wheelchair, because it's a mental wheelchair he's in. It's not a physical wheelchair. He mentally is still sitting in his wheelchair. He doesn't even know he's dead. And he's sending everybody away from him. You know, like he did the nurses. When the nurses come to help him, he would send them away, be very, very, you know, annoying, if you will. So anyway, he finally, after 2.5 years of doing this every day, fresh water. By the way, that water would go down a good 3 inches just overnight. And I said, how does that happen, when I asked the teachers? And they said, we bring him to his pitcher. We bring the soul to the pitcher because we're helping you, Ron. You're one of us, and we want to help to get your dad out of darkness for you. And so they bring him, and you get him close enough to see his pitcher. He sees his pitcher. Oh, who's that? Well, that's me. He sees himself, that's me. Oh, that's my wedding picture. That's Mama. And I'm like, well, yeah. He's finally thinking in those terms. And then he sees the pink carnation there, and we get him to inhale the water. Water is cleansing, and that's why that is brought. Also, I lit a candle and had a candle there, burning, a white candle, one of those 7-day candles. It's very important for protection. And that's how he finally got up out of his wheelchair, went with his brother, and went through the light, through the tunnel, still had to go through the tunnel, to visit and see all his other family there waiting to greet him. Everybody's waiting for him, to welcoming him. And when he come around, they said that we have a surprise for you, and that was coming at this time of the year when this was written. And they said, Christmas is coming, and when you and the family are all together, we're going to write for you and bring you a wonderful message. We had no idea what they meant, and my dad came through, and he wrote through his hand. First, it was very difficult. You could hardly make out the first D.
Jan was writing it.
Jan is writing. It's her arm that's moving, yes. And so the D come out, and it would run off the page. And the next thing would be D-A, you get D-A. Finally you got D-A-D, Dad, you think you get it, and it became Daddy, D-A-D-A-Y. Daddy is here, and Mama's here too, is what he wrote. And the first thing, the message that he said was, I didn't know I was supposed to work when I come here. So he's got a lot of work.
And that's a very clear example of what can occur in one experience out of the infinite possibilities. I do want to go back to where you had left off, Ron, though, about murderers and the death penalty. There's something that you want to cover in that.
Definitely so, yes. I was talking about a soul that being smart, because it has nothing to do with smartness, it doesn't do with intelligence. The soul is a soul. He's an intelligent soul, and he's running and leading armies, and he's a warlord or whatever from the past. He's still a smart man, going to try to figure out strategy and so forth, what to do and what he was doing all his life. And he's trying to get out of this darkness. So out of the law of average, even though they tried to keep them all in darkness, there's not enough teachers and souls to keep that controlled unless they get enough of these black holes created to get them all put in black holes. But they're so busy putting newer souls that are recently passing into these black holes that the ones from history are still sitting in darkness for 35, 50,000, even maybe a million years. And the soul that does pull back to earth then, others see that and come with him. He gathers other souls to give with him, gives him power of energy in the negative force, in the negative way, and they come back too. They come because it's better than just sitting there. They don't understand why they're sitting there. So they pull back with them. They're not maybe bad souls, as I was saying, that did things bad when they were here on earth, or not very nice.
They just didn't listen.
They just didn't listen. You have to listen to get any kind of progress going. Listen with your inner voice and listen to your impressions and get on with your life, so to speak. So they pull back with him. And they don't want to do bad things, but they become, it adds to the earthbound souls that are here. But they come out of darkness back on the earth. The first thing that happens with any soul, no matter who they are and what they did, it goes by a law of attraction. We've heard of this law of attraction so much. As you think is what you are. So if you got kind of thoughts that are negative or thoughts that are in that way, I'm going to kill her, I'm going to do this, and so forth, you're thinking like that, you immediately attract to you everybody else that love to kill. All those souls come to you. And sometimes they have 15, 20 of them around them.
Right, that energy still exists.
That's a powerful energy of the souls that have not moved on and they don't know where to go, but here's somebody thinking the way they do. It can be the same as, maybe they just like blondes. And this guy keeps going to wherever there's blondes. Whatever you liked on the earth, the soul still has that light within them. It's the same person. It's the same person. It does not change. It just lost its physical body.
So I have a lot of souls who like beautiful women hanging
there
around
you
me.
go. That's how it works, exactly. And then when if they are thinking and realizing soul that is wanting to progress, and they listen to what you're talking about, and you're learning and process that you're learning, they could learn from you and then start thinking themselves and maybe realizing they have a guide, because the guide is always there with every earthbound soul. The guide can't go through unless he takes you through the tunnel.
Tell people, though, what happens with the death penalty, because before meeting you, I very much was about revenge and thought, well, somebody kills somebody, well then fuck them, they should be killed.
Right. That's all through history. And because it's been all through history, they think it's fine to do that. An eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth.
But tell them why it may not be.
Okay. The universe says, the high teachers of the universe say, that they do not endorse any capital punishment. Now, we do have capital punishment. Not everywhere, but several states.
Yeah, they're firing people all the time.
But fine. So the minute they put them out of their body, they have no right to choose. No one has the right to choose. Whether they decide to shoot someone or they decide to kill someone in war, whatever, no one has the right to choose to take another soul out of the body.
But they do.
They do, of course, and then they're responsible for it. Whatever you do, you're responsible for it. So this murderer, who is now back to Earth, has found another one who's thinking the same, and he's listening to all these little thoughts in his head. You'll see souls that are even walking the streets in some slum areas, and you see them talking to everybody all around them, like all these people they're talking to. They're very much in tune with all these negative souls because they're living in a negative world. And but we avoid them. We usually walk around and across the street, stay away from anybody that's standing there doing this, because that's a natural feeling for us to feel this negativity. We don't want to be near it. And that's exactly what it is. He's surrounded with earthbound souls. So these souls will entice that person who is thinking that way to murder.
So the person
and
who's
that's how they get their kicks, as you will say. As they used to love the murder, they're still getting them that way. And the more we keep sending them over, the more murders we're going to create.
That's what I wanted to say.
What's happening. That's what capital punishment is doing.
So say you're sitting in the electric chair, you're a convicted murderer, and we know that's far from you, Ron, but they electrocute you, the soul leaves the body, the soul's intelligent enough to want to continue the addiction that they had, and they go to somebody else who has those thoughts.
Now, we're going to tell you the universe's point from that side. The universe knows this is happening. They allow it to happen because it's our free choice to do so. They allow it to happen for us to kill this person, take them out of their body, for one reason only. When that soul is taken from the body, they gather up all these earthbound souls around them and put them where they belong. Because they no longer have a connection. Now they're like free souls that they can gather. And they work very hard to gather these souls up and put them into the darkness, to get them away from that, to try to cut this down. But the soul itself usually right away clings to the earth because he's got a lot of revenge and a lot of hatred, and he wants to keep up his foolish way of life. You know?
Okay. All right. I think that covers it for now. I want to move on to disasters. I think that's a good segue. We're talking about negativity caused by earthbound souls and by non-listening souls, and I want to be clear to people what we mean by non-listening, meaning that it might not come in the literal sense that you think. You have to have somewhat of an open mind, listen to your impressions of your inner thoughts. Ask. This is very important. I ask all the time. Ask that your guide cleanse you of negativity and that you want the highest and the best thoughts from the highest in the universe.
That is exactly how you can protect yourself. If you start living your life in that manner.
And progress.
And progress. Right here on this earth, make great progress. And as we go along, you'll see that progress can be made to higher and higher levels.
But tell us about the disasters and the universe's perception of the disasters.
The purpose of all that is, certainly. The disasters are created by man. Mankind, all through history, has created every disaster that's been on this earth. Every earthquake, every tornado, every tsunami, every cyclone, every hurricane, every fire, everything that has happened on this earth is created by man. And created by man how? by not listening. We say not listening, or the universe says not listening, is not listening to your inner voice. You have a little inner voice. You have a conscience within you, which is your guide, and he's your connection to the universe. The guide is the connection to the universe. And that's the one you should be talking to all the time. You do talk to him. In your talking all the time, you're talking to your guide. However, you're not necessarily listening to what you're receiving. And you always know, it feels very positive in you if you're on the right track. And if it doesn't, it feels uncomfortable. And sometimes it gets caught into the solar plexus and turns into a big knot in your solar plexus. And you just hang on to that for years until you finally get to the point looking and dealing with that to let it go and release it.
And some people never do. But the point I wanted to make, because there's such a difference in, and this is why I never could follow organized religion, and that's something we're going to cover later, but there's such a difference in, say, somebody who just is down and depressed and not really harming other people, though they just themselves aren't, to somebody who commits mass murder. And the difference, with that is that they're responsible for each thing they do, so they're not all going to end up in the same, with the same things to learn, the same lessons. They could both end up in darkness, but it's very different the amount of work the individual will have to do. And what I've gotten from the books is that the major cause of the disaster comes from the most heightened, I want to say, negativity, which is wars, which is all the mass killings, the genocide that goes on, and usually the wars are fought based in the name of religions, and so they use it as a tool to support their cause, which is killing people on a mass number, which causes a lot of negativity. And at the end of the day, those wars are usually fought over money as well, and control, and that's for all humankind.
That's true. That's true. We'll get back to the cause made by man and the non-listening. There's only one point. If there's a lot of corruption in an area, that collects up along with the non-listening souls that are not listening, getting on with their life, not paying attention to their impressions, not doing what they're supposed to do, not doing what they agreed to do before they came here to take care of this, and this, and clean it up, and avoiding everything they can in their lessons, and getting all caught up in materialism, material things, and money, and how I can make more, and how I can steal more, or take more, and be a king of money, instead of taking care of their own life. Then that's what builds up like a steam kettle. It's boiling.
What do you mean by taking care of their own life, though?
Taking care of their own life, getting on with what they're supposed to do.
Right.
Instead they're doing all corrupt things.
Meaning helping people rather than hurting them.
Helping others.
Right, I just wanted to make that clear.
How they can take from another and use another or whatever. Anytime you use or abuse or hurt another soul, you're creating another mistake. That is your karma. You're creating it.
Okay.
It's another mistake. Mistake and karma is exactly the same thing. That's exactly just an earth word. And the universe chooses to use, you made a mistake. Now stop beating yourself up for it, get on with your lessons, and start making progress. Start living the right way. Change. So let's take an area that we've heard of a lot, and I hate to really pick a certain part of the world, but there's been some devastation in some parts of the world. Let's take Indonesia. I have seen more earthquakes, more volcanoes erupting, more tsunamis, more tidal waves, all this kind of stuff happening in that part of the world than anywhere else. And so it must be a lot of non-listening, non-progressing, and corrupt souls that are living in taking money from people and causing people to live in such poverty.
But something that I want to ask in regards to that, Ron, and I think that is very important because it's something that I had a difficult time with, and that is that there's so many good people who are very positive and helpful to other people who die and as well in these disasters, and the corrupt people still live.
Yeah.
So can you make that make more sense for us?
We'll get to that. It'll always come up, and we'll say that over and over many times, I'm sure. But right now, I think that the idea is to just explain the actual disaster. It builds up and it stays. All this negativity, all this non-listening energy, all this non-progressive and all this ways of trying to hurt other people collects in an energy force, but it stays within our atmosphere. It cannot leave our atmosphere because it doesn't belong in the universe outside of our atmosphere. They did not create it. We created it. That's why we have the outer darkness. Those souls stay within our atmosphere. And as they go through the light, the tunnel, into the light, which is the real universe, it's all light, color, and sound. And there's no black or negativity there at all. It's all earth created. It's like a release, a Mother Nature, a natural release has to go back to the area where it came from. If that happened in New York City, it would come from New York City. If it happened in New Orleans, it would go to New Orleans. If it happened in the Midwest, where you have all the tornado, it goes back to the area where it is given out. It is replenished to the area. You will see in these fires that we have, so many fires, there's going to be, this is the year of fires, believe me, all over the world, these fires. And that's cleaning up the mess. And you see how the fire goes down this way, it burns this house, there it doesn't burn the neighbor's house. And then it goes, burns over here and here. Then you'll see one house here, one house there that's burned, and nothing in between. It's all under control of many, many thousands of souls in the universe. They're called courier souls that work for the teachers, and the teachers tell them where that tornado has to go, what farmhouses it needs to hit, or what cities or towns, and so forth, to clean up the mess. And it's all part of cleaning itself up, cleansing itself. Hey, how many deaths? Very few deaths in consideration of these disasters. Very few deaths. Some of them were pretty high in the Far East. You know, we had about 280,000 in one. The universe says they can only handle so many souls at a time coming through, so they keep control of that from the souls, giving the souls another chance to live on. Those that have not been doing good and are still left on earth have lessons to still do, because they need to correct these mistakes. They don't want them into darkness. They don't want them sitting over there forever. That's why they're here. And those that were the innocent souls, their lessons have been completed. It's time for them to come home. There's no other reason. Otherwise, they would be protected. In the middle of all this devastation, they would survive. And they would still continue their lessons. There's always a protection for the good. Always. A divine protection. Whether they ask for it or not, they will receive it, because they've not given that kind of a life out to be destroyed.
And if they are, it means that their time...
Their time is up. There's only two ways you leave the earth. Two ways, okay? Either you're not getting on with your mistakes and your lessons and correcting these things from the past, and creating more and more and more, and causing more trouble to more people and more families and more of whatever, and they call you back. And you come back with these disasters. You may come back in a drive-by shooting. You may come back in a car accident. Come back instantly, whatever. Come back in many different ways that you come back. You come back and they say, hey, you were down there to do this, 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 and this. You agreed to all these things. Now what have you done? Oh, I didn't do any of those things. Then sit over there until we got time for you, until we got a teacher for you. And they put them into darkness, and that's what they do. They're separating the good from the bad, slowly, in this manner. The good souls are automatically, if they go through the tunnel to the light, doesn't mean they all do. Some of them still cling to their material things and pull back and become earthbound souls. And it may take them a long time to get to that realization, unless they're smart enough to listen and pay attention, because most of them don't realize they're dead. They don't feel anything anymore. They don't hurt, but they have everything within them that they really are. The same soul. They don't change because they lost the physical body. They're exactly the same soul. If they have finished and completed their lessons,
the good soul,
they automatically go to a newer earth. They have created in the universe a new earth. It's called the new dimension. It is so beautiful there, you can't describe it. There's nothing in all of our ways and words that could describe the beauty that exists there. It's all in peace and harmony. The mind is erased of all corruption, all greed, all selfishness. Everything of the earth plane is erased from the mind. And they go there to live in peace and harmony, and everybody lives together in peace and harmony. All the animals, the trees, and everything live together, and they make nothing but progress. And they can stay there as long as they wish. If they so choose, after a long stay in that new dimension as a good soul, and want to work to the higher level and planes, then they will work in progress and go to higher and higher and higher planes, much higher than that.
And you know the beauty of it because you've seen it in dreams, correct?
And they show this to a lot of people. They have these elusive dreams, and the colors are far beyond human comprehension to describe. It is so beautiful. I'll give you one scene I remember so clearly. Was I was walking through this great, big, beautiful, green, glassy field, and it was like the grass was just flowing with the breeze and back and forth. And as I walked, the grass separated for me. It separated like it gave me a path. I said, well, that's cool. And you see this path, and then it closed back in behind me. It never made any damage to anything. The water, I put my hand in the water, and it's like a loose mercury type water. It just rolled through your fingers in a manner that was just so hard to describe. The trees, everything, the animals, everything.
So ethereal.
All ethereal. There is a body, and it's an ethereal body. They no longer want anything to do with the physical body because it's nothing but trouble. The only physical bodies that will continue, hoping that things do change on this earth, without all these disasters destroying things, will be hopefully another 1,000 years, because the earth is very old and very tired, and it's going to take millions of years to ever replenish itself so it can be livable again, and that's what's happening. However, it can change for at least enough time that we will see this change. We will see certain areas changing all over the earth, the devastated areas, and certain people being removed and souls being removed because they're not getting on with it, and many that will be left to continue to a better way of living in peace and harmony right here on earth, finding your own true happiness within and living in happiness and working to help and care and share for other people. That's exactly what we need to do on this earth. That's our purpose.
Great. I think that covers a lot in that area. I want to move on, though, because I think there's a lot around this next subject, and definitely clarified and always made more common sense again to me than what I had ever heard from organized religion. And I want you to talk to us about sex.
Okay, that's wonderful. The universe tells us right away there is no sex in the universe. That's strange. People always say, what do you mean? Male and female, that's all we know. We're on earth, that's what we know. There is just souls. They're all souls. You can choose what you want to be. And everybody chooses before they leave the earth, whether they want to be male or female. And that can be changed even when they choose it within 6 months of the pregnancy. Meaning, at that time, that they finally agreed that I best can learn my lessons and correct my mistakes as a girl. At that time, then it is solidified by the teachers. Then they add the right seed that is necessary for that to become a female, only 6 months into the pregnancy. Same would be for male. Now, prior to that, they can change their mind. I've had situations and experiences from people who definitely were going to have a boy, and they were getting all ready for the boy, and this was all, that's all they ever thought of. And the soul that was coming through changed its mind and says, no, I think I could better learn my lessons as a girl. And in the 6 months time period, she was changed to a girl and came through as a girl in the last 3 months of pregnancy. So it's amazing how these things are. Now you've got to understand that the soul is just a light. The soul coming through. A lot of souls are connected to the family here, and they choose their parents. We all have chosen our parents before we came. And we also have agreed with the guide that we have as our guide.
Chosen the gender and the parents according to what we come to learn and experience, correct?
First thing you do in coming as a new soul into the earth body is to get the parents back on the track of their lessons. It's to teach the parents. All children are born to teach their parents, whoever the parents are. Meaning that they've got off the track, and this child now is being given to them and coming to them to change their lives, to make them think differently, take responsibility for the child, and so forth, and all the things that are necessary to be a parent. And living in a proper manner, teaching the child accordingly, the responsibility, personal responsibility, all that stuff needs to be done by the parents. And then, after a while, can be 5, 6, 7 years, some come younger, or at a younger age they start their lessons, then the soul itself's lessons kick in. Many times as years go on and they see what goes on in that family, they say, oh, how could I have possibly chosen this family? I don't belong here, I just don't feel like it. And that's so true, but it is really, when you see the picture of it, and you will see that when you return back to the universe, of your connection and why you had to be and go through what you had to do for the lessons that you needed to learn. It's all for a learning process. If you look at everything that happens as a learning process, a lesson, and see that there's a lesson in it, you don't see it necessarily at the time, but just know it. If in yourself you have a knowing that there's something there to be learned, not only from the person that it happens to, but everybody connected around them. And sometimes even neighborhoods and communities and organizations, and how people go out and work to change things here on earth so that there could be less and less of these things happening. And that's what it's all about. Change is the only answer. It's the only way you can make any progress, is to change. Change your thinking, open your mind, think of new things, new thought, and the way you're thinking of things, and you can make your life so much easier, your lessons so much easier, and they will move along just nicely without you having to be going through such horrifying experiences. Does that help some?